when you're making decisions for yourself, always remember that when we look at ourselves or family members or people that are close to us, we're looking at it through, I don't like using the term rose-colored glasses because it sounds like you're just blind, but I guess that's what it is. But you're looking at it through love. You're looking at it through wishful thinking a lot of the times, but it's not necessarily the most honest opinion. Hey, Eric.
How you feeling?
Hi, hair guy.
I know it's so it's long enough to start tossing her back here.
Yeah.
So
Slick it.
it's the hockey hair.
Mine.
I actually don't like it. So
Yeah. Well, you'll cut it, I'm sure.
I want to, but the family loves the long hair. So my family's all giving me the same feedback. So I'm like, well, maybe I'm dumb.
I combed mine with a pillow today.
Yeah. Nice. So we're gonna do 3 things today. First, I want to show you a video. Second, we're gonna talk about tryouts. Third, we're gonna talk about things to do after tryouts, a little bit more skewed to the older ages, U16 and over. I was having a conversation with a dad the other day, and he was asking us specifically about the after U16. You're kind of in no man's land, so I want to talk a little bit about that for them. And I think it all kind of tails in. But first, so this video is a John Tortorella classic. So anybody who's watched John Tortorella knows he's known for some of his funny commentary when he's talking to reporters and stuff like that. But this is not that. He's kind of commenting on like respecting the process of becoming a hockey player. That's kind of the tone of the video. So I'm going to show it to you, and then I'll see if I can overlay it without getting a copyright strike in the video. Okay. I'll summarize it first, and then I'll play it. So basically, he's kind of just saying like players need to. Sometimes you just have to wait your turn as a player, and everybody wants everything right now. And a lot of times they're surrounded by people that are not necessarily doing what's in their best interest, or maybe directing them the wrong way, and it's causing like a problem. That's something that he's noticed with like players coming up. So it's a little bit about like the entitlement type thing. So if I can't play it over, then you kind of get the gist of what the video is about. But I'll play
a
it
lot
for
of
you.
people would have seen it in the hockey world.
Yeah. So I'll play it for you now.
I guess the thing with the young athletes is sometimes you have to wait your turn, right? As far as gaining respect and not wanting everything right now, not expecting everything right now as far as ice time, as far as your contract, or whatever it may be. Sometimes it's good just to wait your turn and earn it. I think that's where I think the athletes have changed. They have entourages around them that I think direct them the wrong way. And the hierarchy of a room, the hierarchy of what it is to be a pro, the process you have to go through as a pro, I think's lost a little bit with the athlete now.
Okay, so that's the video.
Yeah.
Opening thoughts, and then we'll get into it a little bit.
Well, I saw the day that he came out with that, and I loved it because.
Oh, you've seen it before?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like,
I didn't know that.
I've been around the earth a couple times.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. What are my thoughts?
Yeah. Just generally.
100%. Look at man. Like, I have a kid that plays hockey, and he's at a high level of hockey, and he's had to not learn that from an aspect that he was in a rush, but he was drafted early in the OHL draft and earned a spot on a team, right? And we used to have the talks as a kid, his first year, like, I'd just like to have more ice, like whatever. We'd have those talks, and he had to earn it, and it was the best process of his development was earning everything that he got, right? And then the flip side, there's a lot of people that, like, I'm just talking OHL level, that as soon as there's another side to it too. We can talk to someone about all the things that are going to happen. For example, okay, you were drafted, so you're going to go to the camp. You're going to earn a spot to sign. If you make the team, you probably be on the 4th line if you make the team. Maybe you have to pick up pucks, these different things and all that kind of stuff. That was like kind of like earning your same concept, right? And a lot of the parents, when you have a conversation with people, they say, yeah, but then deep down and in the back of your head, you say, but I'm different. I'm going to be different. I'm going to go to the OHL and I'm going to be on the 3rd line or 2nd line. I should be on the power play, blah, 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 blah. So it's actually very, very common. And some of it is just ignorance, not the rude kind of ignorance, just ignorance, not knowing like how good the leagues are and stuff like that. So you could look at, I'm using the OHL again because it's a pretty good, what's my word? I'm so tired today. It's our demographic a lot of that age coming into junior. And, you'll see someone come in as a 15, 16 or 16, 17-year-old, maybe even 18-year-old, and they haven't really touched the power play. And some people are parents and kids, like they're losing their mind year one, because if they got the chance, but like what they forget is that guy that's in the league 4 or 5 years already, he's been where you were, right? He's been where you were, but you just can't see the struggles that they went through. All you see is a guy that's 19 or 20 years old that's getting the ice, getting the power play because he's been trusted. He's been through 3-4 years of being the second fiddle, third fiddle, and then until his basically what John Tortorella said, earn the trust to get on the ice and to play those high minutes and do things right for a few years. So I love that, and I think that another aspect of it is, like, I think people in general are in a rush to get to the next level faster than it's even possible, or faster than they're ready for. And marinating a year or two somewhere else is probably a better, maybe not probably, but could be a better option for them, just to get better and the basics getting better, right? I think I was telling you this a couple weeks ago. I was speaking with one of the strength coaches with my son's team in Brantford, and his side business is training too. And he was saying that, like, there's a lot of kids that come in, like the younger, let's say a 12 to 14-year-old kid, and they walk into the gym and with the dad or whatever, and maybe the dad looks or the kid looks and says, well, yeah, but I want to do that. Like, I want to do what the guy on the Washington Capitals does, like, because that's what they do in the NHL or junior. Like, they're doing that, but then the trainer tries to explain, like, hey, dude, before they did this, they had to do what you're doing, and you have to get good at the basics, and then you work your way there, and they're playing for these teams because they did the work that you're supposed to do now, but you can't skip the steps or else you'll never get to that point. So it's like, I love that. I think there's a lot of things you're just trying to compare yourself to other people and be in a rush to get where you need to go.
Yeah. So do you feel like, because for us it's now scaled down to like the younger demographics, do you feel like some of that is leaking into the even earlier now? So it's like we're not even junior age kids, we're not pros, and the amount of like conversations I have with agents about, like, well, what can you do for my client? You know what I mean? It's like these guys are 14 or 15 or 16, or like, what, there's no like making a team anymore. There's no like you have to try. Like, there's no like you have to work for it. There's no like, it's like everything is like preset or pre-decided or whatever, and we're like as guilty of it as anybody, because that's part of the process for us too.
Well,
Like
that's the process.
yeah,
There's
like a lot of the kids
anymore.
Like, yeah, a lot of the kids, it's like we only can go off of like a certain amount of video that we watched, and a certain amount of conversations that we have, whether it's with the kid or the family or whatever. It's like there's not really a whole lot of like you have to come in here and really carve your way to earn it. And like I feel most minor hockey teams are turning into that, where you show up and there's like, half the team or more is already signed or already committed to, or whatever it is. And so a lot of the conversation is just like, well, what can you do for me as the player? What can you do for me as, and I get that on the one hand, because it's, you should be accountable to provide something to the player and family as a program. So I'm not discounting that, but there's just like an attitude about it. Like, there's a mentality about it where it's like, yeah, you want to go to a good program, but it's also not just like about you though. And I feel like that's kind of lost a little bit. So like, do you feel the same way now that you're kind of going through the thick of it in the younger ages, like that kind of what he's talking about with respect to the pro players is actually starting to leak down like younger and younger?
Well, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I don't know where it started. I don't know why it started, but somewhere along the line, this is why I think youth hockey in Canada, at least, is really upside down. Actually, here's a quick story. Mickey Renault, remember Mickey, obviously? So Mickey played for the Spitfires, was drafted to the Calgary Flames and passed away, had a heart issue, right? I remember his dad played in the NHL. And this is when he went to junior B. So he got drafted to the Spitfires, and like most people think, okay, so I got drafted, that makes me eligible or guaranteed to play junior B or junior A, and I'll get to the Spitfires the next year. And when the coach and GM of the junior B team talked to Mickey, they said, so next year this, and we'll want you'll do this. And then the dad interrupted and said, but he has to make the team first. And what I liked about that was a lot of people might think, yeah, you're just trying to be a dad to say, hey, don't forget that you have to try out and stuff, which he probably was. But I like the morals and the principles and the old school thinking of that is like, I don't want, basically telling the GM and stuff the same thing is, I don't want you to sit here and guarantee my son anything because he hasn't earned one thing. That makes sense? He's got to earn. He's got to go through the process, and there's something good about the process that makes you a better player, right? So I think you look at. I don't want to get too far away from what we're talking about. So yes, I think it happens. When did it happen? I don't know, but I think people started, like if I look back 10, 15 years ago, maybe it was a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, when someone didn't like to play because there was boundaries, like at least in our area. If someone didn't want to play in this boundary, they'd go to extremes of faking a divorce, selling a house and moving it to play for a different team, which are extremes, right? So, but what that did, not to say that I'm not judging them necessarily either way, but I think when people started to see uh, people finding ways to get out of the place that they could or were supposed to play, let's say, then there was games that were starting to be played and coaches trying to get players to come to them in youth hockey, which I thought it's kind of crazy. Maybe not, whatever. But I think that started to open, like in our area anyway, started to open up the doors. Like, okay, there's ways that we can go play for better teams. So now when you're a decent player, or if you have a coach that wants to be more on the winning side, then they're more enabling for stuff like that. So all of a sudden, you're talking to a coach that, yeah, hey, come play for me, find a way to get here, whatever. And then all of a sudden that opens up the doors. And then now it starts turning into, well, if I come to play for you, what are you going to give to me? Or parents talking like that, right? So I think that might be part of it. And I could be totally wrong, but it seems like that was the way it was kind of shaped, at least in this hockey. Like, if you lived in Toronto and I'll just go here. So this is not the same story that you would have in Toronto, right? Toronto, Ontario. Right, in Toronto, those borders have always more or less been open. So like if you're living in a big place like Toronto, and I can understand why they don't have borders, because like it's just one big humongous city that blends into each other, and it's probably easier just to have your 6 or 8 teams or 10 teams or whatever. But in those cases, that's when you're starting to get, I want to go play for the better team, this, that, the other team, and maybe coaches can recruit at any time. I forget what the logistics are, but now you're going to teams where if you're a coach that wants just the best players and maybe not character and all these different things, then maybe start selling your soul and start telling kids how great they're going to be, and then now they're guaranteed spots. So you're not really trying out for teams anymore. You're going there and without having to work for it.
Yeah. Okay. Put a pin in that because we'll get back to that when we talk about like the tryout stuff a little bit. I wanted like a couple comments on one of the comments he made was just kind of like the entourage around players. So whether that's the parents, the agent, the whatever is in your network, and like maybe they're not necessarily directing them in the best type of way. What are your thoughts on that? Like, are there pieces of it that you agree with, don't agree with? Because I'm always of two opinions. Like I've given the example before of like there was the one family here I was talking to that they were just like, we're so grateful that we've had somebody to help guide us because we aren't hockey people. We don't know how to filter the information well, and it's nice to have the resource. And then on the other hand, like everybody has their own agenda, right? So like agents have their own agenda just as much as everybody else, or parents that are thinking more or less of their kid than they actually are, and they're trying to pull strings and get more involved than maybe they need to be. And then it's how is that filtering to the kid? How is that changing their mindset and what they're thinking? And that's kind of where maybe some of the entitlement can come in, where it's like they feel owed XYZ treatment, as opposed to you're trying to learn the right lessons and figure out your way and work hard and do the right things, and all that kind of stuff can get lost. So like, do you have, or I guess, what are your thoughts on just that in general, like the entourage that's surrounding kids now and like the people they're leaning on?
We got to be very careful who you spend your time with, right? That's the bottom line. If you're around people that are always telling you how great you are and that type of conversation, then that's what you think, and you think you're entitled to stuff, right? So, and that could be an agent, it could be your family, it could be whoever it is, right? If you're always hearing the part that you're entitled to stuff, then you're gonna obviously act like that. That's why I think it's important to. I was just having conversations about this the other day with the kids about, let's put it really in perspective here. Like, and this is not to put any bad light on agents, because it's a job that's, some people really need them, some people don't. But there's definitely a time and a place. But let's make no mistake what an agent is, right? An agent is someone that is a talent, a talent. What do you call it? Seeker?
Yeah,
Talent
recruiter.
Talent recruiter. You're looking for people with talent, so that if they succeed, you're going to talk on their behalf a little bit, so they can take your money. That's really the end of the day. It's no different than if you're a financial planner, right? You're looking for people that have money so that you can invest it and you can make the most money. Though the difference between that is like, if you're my financial advisor, for example, are you looking out for me or are you looking out for you? And that's the most important thing. So what you should try to do most of the time is have people that are actually looking out for your best interest. And with those decisions are going to be decisions that matter. So, for example, and I don't want to talk to my kids. Let's say someone else. Let's say you're getting to a certain level. You're getting drafted to the OHL. Let's say you're in that realm, right? Let's say you're a second round pick or a third round pick or a fourth round pick, like high enough that there is a possibility that you make the team your first year, right? So the not waiting your turn would be, okay, I need to go and play in the OHL right now. That's where I need to play, and then you can think the world has screwed you if you haven't, right? But that's the demands or what you would really want out of it. But if you had a real conversation with people that really cared about you and can look at the bigger picture, maybe jumping into the OHL at 16 years old wasn't your best bet. So having a good entourage around you would sit there and say, okay, let's just throw some scenarios out, right? You're a kid like Ethan Belches, who's 6'5" and 225 pounds at 16 years old. He went in the first round. Like, that is probably the next step, right? Because like, if you played any other step, you're probably too big. The challenge isn't as big as it should be. It's probably detrimental to your growth, right? So that makes sense. If you take someone that was maybe a second round pick or even a late first round pick, we'll even talk about that. A first round pick in the OHL that's maybe a little undersized or maybe a little immature, maybe there's a lot to work on in their game. It's not to say that maybe they couldn't play in the OHL, but if we had a really good long conversation and looked at weighed the pros and the cons, would playing junior B for 1 year and take it obviously seriously and play at a higher level, is that maybe the most appropriate step. But if you're given a choice, what are you gonna take? Like, if that was actually that, there's very few and far between people that will say, let's just pull back and wait 1 more year and develop and make ourselves better. So from a long term development standpoint, which would be better? And I don't know if people really look at that as much, right? So I think that's advice from the people that are around you is honest conversations and what's really truly better for your long-term development. Who knows? So you just, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. So okay. So that kind of I think that kind of goes well or tees up well into like the next piece that I want to talk about, because we're finishing up the like tryout period in Ontario, and this has been like the first year of like true open borders. Like, so it happened last year too, but it was kind of announced pretty late, so like people didn't have as much time to, like, you know, scheme about it and all that. So I guess, what are your thoughts on just how that is going? Because I want to, like, if we reflect back to like previous episodes, we would always say it's kind of bullshit that you have to, if you're on this side of the street, you can't go play for this team or that team. Now it's the complete opposite, right? So now that we've seen how that's kind of developed, where are your thoughts at now about that?
There's no tryouts. That's what just happened, right? Like, essentially there's no tryouts, because like, even when people call us or we call them about our program, and like you said, everyone's in the same boat now. So not saying we're better than anyone or whatever, but what we're talking to people, it's what are you guys going to do for me? And what's, like, these are the first questions, like, basically in a nutshell, what are you guys going to do for us? Where do you see me fitting in? Who's on the team? And it's all like grilling the organization, which is fine to a certain degree, but it's always, not always, but it's refreshing when you have someone say, oh, okay, like, I'm really excited about this. I've heard, you know, and ask questions about what does the development model look like? Like, look at the big picture of it and say, oh, they're like, for example, you have a gym. Cool. How often do you get to use a gym? Cool. So you have access to it, but do you actually use it? And and there's a trainer. Okay. So these are a lot of pluses. How many times you're on the Is that enough? Too much? Right? What do those areas look like? who are the coaches and what do they do, and like and speak to the coaches to get a feel for if that's a fit for you or whatever. But like looking at the positives of it or the negatives of it, like asking the questions about the ice, the training, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, ask that, and then ask the questions about what about like what are you going to do for me? You know what I mean? Because a lot of people are looking like it's fine to say if you come here, I'm going to give you, you know, for sure you're going to be on the first line power play, first or second, whatever. We're going to give you this, 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 and this, and then ask the other questions later. It's like, well, then it's kind of backwards, isn't it? So yeah, so I just think what happened is now there's no such thing as tryouts, and if they are, they're pretend tryouts, because basically all these teams, unless you're at the teams that are getting, for lack of like this may be a ruder term, but the crumbs. So you know, like if you're taking like the top 10 teams in Ontario or wherever you live, and that's the teams that they've kind of made commits to, then last minute they start taking other kids or things change, then you go down to maybe what you call the tier 2 choices of what players would think are the best teams. That might be a pseudo tryout now, but right now it's here's our 20 guys that are coming and we committed to, because if you don't commit, you don't get them, right? So that's the thing now. There's no tryout, and that gives a huge disservice to hockey. But I'm not saying it's much different in the NHL now and the OHL, to be honest with you. Like at the NHL, there are spots to earn, but at the same token, there are this player makes 8 million, this one place makes 7, and it's a contract thing. So it's like there are a few spots there, or you can get sent down. But earning a spot on the team, going to camp, and 3 guys grabbing a new spot, it's like almost unheard of now. In the OHL, it's the same thing. It's you're drafted, let's get them signed. College is the same thing. You make commitments, and it's the teams are already made before there's tryouts. So no one, like, it's harder to earn it. So how you have to earn it is you go to play at a lower level or a different level or a different team and make someone want you that way. It's almost you earn it during the season.
Yeah, I think the conversations are interesting because when you talk to the player, we talk to the families, or you talk to the agents, because a lot of times they're involved to some degree now too. You can kind of see or hear like what is the intention, and it's interesting to compare the different angles of what people feel like they're looking for, what's important to them. And it is hard because we say this all the time. It's like nobody knows who's going to be good. Like nobody knows, even if you're like the best kid right now at whatever age, it doesn't matter if it's U16. It doesn't matter if it's whatever youth hockey age. Even in the OHL, guys come in and they're supposed to be the best player, and then you see guys die out like time and time again, right? So, but unfortunately, it's like from an organizational standpoint, you have to treat it like it's important, right? Like you have to treat it like, okay, these are the best players. These are the guys that you want to go after, yada, 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 yada. And if you don't do that, it almost is like a poor reflection on the program now, because now it's like all these teams have to actually recruit. It's not just like, okay, we know that we're going to get 40 kids at every tryout, because that's generally like with our population and the kids that are in the area, that's usually what we'll get. That's gone. It's gone now. So now it's like if you want good players to be on your team, you have to have some version of recruiting. You have to be selling something now. And I do get like that's not all bad. That's not all bad.
No.
Because if you're a very poorly run program, it'll die. And like that's
which
probably,
is good.
Yeah, that's probably what should happen, right? But it just feels like there's just the other extreme too, of just like where you're constantly selling. And it's like there's something like icky about it, right? Where it's just like we're talking about kids still. We're not in the OHL, we're not in the NHL. It's not professionals. It's not big money being thrown around, though that happens sometimes even in youth hockey and all of that. And so it's like it's just we say it all the time when we do calls and stuff. It's just we don't like it. Like we don't want to have to sell a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old, and like sell the family on it and like all that stuff. So I know our approach may be a little bit different than most of the people that kind of do this stuff, because I've actually been complimented on this multiple times. People have complimented me about you in your tone of conversation of just like, we just appreciate the straight shooting, like just saying what actually is going to go on. Like it's refreshing. Like that's the word that a few different families have used in like just talking with you.
That's where I just hope integrity. I always question it sometimes. You try to have as much integrity as you can. You hope that integrity is something that makes sense and pays off, right? But sometimes you wonder. But yeah, all you can do is be honest, and because at the end of the day, if people are around you, then your true colors show, anyways, right? So, but yeah, I was just thinking though. The other thing is, when you're talking about your entourage or not waiting your turn, it's like it's like it's a race to get who's on the best team. Like, and one of the most important things for people to look at is like how good the team is going to be. Which, I mean, yeah, you want to play on at least a decent team, but it's like it's almost like the number one thing. So you could look at a lot of those other development things that I was talking about, as opposed to like putting a super team together or like the best collection of what are deemed as skilled players or whatever. And when you look at that, like that's another version of not waiting your turn, right? It's like it's nothing earned. You step on a team because you can afford to move to another city. It's like that stuff to me. It just catches up to you at some point. Yeah, there's huge lessons in waiting your turn, as John Tortorella said, or paying the price, or facing some adversity, or you live in Windsor, Ontario. You play for Windsor, Ontario. It's okay. Like, you got to learn how to make things work. It's learning how to play with bad players, good players, older players, younger players, good coaches, bad coaches. Like, all that stuff is good because at some point it's going to happen to you in a game, or in the game of hockey if you move on. There's so many kids that over the years that I've seen in the OHL that the first thing, as John Tortorella said, is they don't want to wait their turn. So if they're not getting exactly what they want their first year, first month, like early in the career where they haven't even tested the waters and proven anything, it's like, okay, well, I got to talk to my agent, and he needs to solve this problem for me, because this is, I don't have the nuts to go and talk to my coach about, like, how come that, why does this work? How does it work? Or like, like in an intelligent way, get my agent to do it. And the agent, picks up the phone and is like, what's going on with Derek? Like, he needs to be playing more. And the coach is going, yeah, we'll work on it. It's all bullshit conversations, for the most part. And, that's another way of just saying, like, I don't want to wait my turn. I just want to be good right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I know like there's a lot of different conversations are happening as like tryouts are finishing up and kids are getting cut or making the team or whatever. And so um I know like we were having conversations with people about this kind of stuff. I've had a couple calls the last couple of days about that kind of stuff. You had a conversation today with somebody about it. um I guess, what would you say to the parents and players if they're in a position where they got cut, and maybe they're, obviously everyone's like super disappointed if they don't make a team they wanted to make and all of that stuff. And on the flip side, like if you're a kid who, maybe you made the team that you think is like the dream team, maybe some reality check on like expectations and stuff going into that type of situation as well. Like, what are your thoughts for getting through that trial process if you're on the positive or negative side of the situation?
I think if you do your homework on yourself, you should probably have a pretty good idea of where you're at, right? So like if you're going to a tryout and for example, you're going to a AAA tryout on a pretty good team, and you've never played AAA, and you're just a pretty good player at the A level or double A level, and you're really disappointed that you didn't make the team, it's like that not necessarily should be a shocker, right? Providing that, unless you went there and you gave it. I understand going there, really working hard for a period of time leading up to this big monumental tryout season or whatever, and doing everything you could for a period of time and working really hard and feeling like you competed and all that stuff. Or maybe you walk away being disappointed from the fact that, man, I put all that time in and I just wasn't good enough this time. But to be disappointed that, like, just upset that you didn't make it just because you went. And that's where I get the tone sometimes, like, I went and I was not bad, or I was better than this guy. It's like, again, wait your turn, right? You weren't consistently better than this person or whatever, right? And then what was the other side? If you make the team,
Yeah, if you make, so like, I guess just I'll give you a little more to chew on. Like, in my mind, it's on the one hand, it's like, okay, if you don't make the team that you wanted to make, like, how big of a deal is it actually, right? So if you go in, and obviously it's more age dependent. Like if you're 10 or 11 or 12 and you don't make the team you wanted to make, like how significant is that actually in the grand scheme? Maybe just like some perspective that way. And then on the other side, it's like a lot of these guys, like, so I'm thinking about one team in particular, and a bunch of kids made or now are going to this team. And I know, just because I know the circumstance, there are a lot of complaints about this particular team, right? A lot of complaints about the coaching, about some of the players that are there. And some kids now went to this team to play on this team, and it might not be exactly what they think right? Because maybe they don't have all that information. So even when you're jumping in and you're like, oh my God, I made it, like this is going to be the best year ever. I'm even thinking of like, okay, like just, you don't always know exactly what's going to go on. Like you might think it's going to be better. You might think it's going to be this and that and whatever, but just like kind of tempering the expectations a little bit, because again, we're talking about minor hockey where there's like a lot of different dynamics at play. You're not on an NHL team. You might not like your coach after a couple weeks, and the honeymoon phase kind of wears off, all that stuff. So I'm thinking of it those two ways. Like if you get cut, that you didn't make it, and you're, particularly if you're younger, like if you're a little bit older, I know it feels more consequential, but especially when you're a little bit younger, and that's just because of the conversation you had today, like that's where my head's at with that. And then on the other side, if you do get to make the team that you think you want to make, just like there's still like a lot of unknowns there, right?
Yeah,
especially if
100%.
it's a new team. So like just
100%.
I guess those two
Well, from
pieces.
the first one, from a younger kid getting cut, like this, like you can't be disappointed if you didn't put in the work. I mean, this is where parenting and your family and people around you can have good conversations, right? Like if you say you want to make a team, what did you do? Like, do you want to make a team? Would it be nice to make a team, or is this something that you really, really want? And if you can't really be disappointed if you just said you give it a try because it would be good and you get cut and it hurts your feelings. That's different than saying, I really want to make this team and I got 6 months to make this team and I'm going to work really hard on maybe a specific part of my game or specific parts. And I get on a bike once every couple of days to work my cardio, and I work my shot. And you have this whole process of, and you're thinking about it, and you go to games and you watch this team that you want to play for. Like I'm building it up a little bit, but you're like, this is something that I really want. And you go out to a tryout and you work really hard, and then you find out at the end of the day, like, no, you're not good enough to make this team, or you're really close to you made this team. That's disappointing. That's where it hurts. It should hurt because you put everything into it. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the end of the world. What it means is like, okay, this is reality. Now, if I want to do this, I'm gonna have to do this. I got to find some other things that make it that makes sense for me to have a chance to do this if I really want it. So that's just life. That's just freaking life, man. Like I said, I was gonna say earlier, is I could never in school ever be disappointed that, and I was never shocked what my report card was going to be like, right? Because if I brought a pen and a piece of paper to school that day, is because I was pretending that I was going to school. One day I would say, okay, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to actually try this thing. And then so when I got 50 or 60, because like I went to the odd class and I wasn't a jerk to the teacher, like it was actually personable and would never disrupt the class, I did enough to get by. So when he gave me a 60, I was actually thankful.
Yeah, right.
And I'm not a stupid person or a dumb person. It's just that's not what I wanted to put any of my time into. So you can't sit there and say, when mom and dad could never say, go to the principal and say, like, what do you mean you got a 60?
Yeah, you knew
Well,
why.
they would say, what do you mean he got a 60?
Yeah.
Shouldn't have got a 60. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So it can't be disappointed. But if I would have sat there for, I want to really be good in science, whatever it is, and I'm studying every night and I'm putting the work in and I'm doing calculations and stuff, and then I do the work and I get a test back and I get back a 60, it's like, yeah, you're allowed to be upset. Like, what do I need to do to get better? And go within, right? So that's pretty much common sense, no?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the way you got to look at it, right? And then for the kid that makes a team, that they thought it was like, you never know what you're getting into. So, like I say this to parents all the time, be careful what you wish for. Tell that to kids a lot of time, be careful what you wish for. Say you want to play in the NHL, you say you want to play college or OHL, you want to make a life out of this. Be careful what you're wishing for, because you're giving up a whole lot more. With the good comes the bad. So, the glory, yes, you get to go play, like let's say in the OHL, you get to play for the Oshawa Generals. Awesome. The flip side is that you're moving away from home at a young age. The good side is that you get a little bit of fame. You're getting people watching you at a pretty high level, and it's pretty cool. The crappy part is that you're giving up friends. You're maybe giving up girlfriends. You're giving up a lot. Your life is dictated in a hockey rink and in a gym. That might not seem like the worst thing, but you're doing it every day with standards and you have to prove results, and sometimes your results aren't good enough, and a coach is up your ass and down your throat about it. You really don't understand what you're getting into, right? Or if you go there to be a fourth line guy for 2 years and not see a power play or a penalty killer, just like checking roles, like it's hard on a human being if you don't really understand what you're getting into. So it's you got to be careful. You never know what you're getting into. So that's why when people say they want to be hockey players, they want to do that, and the other team, till you've been tested in many different ways, you have no idea what you're talking about, right? Yeah, and like another example would be like, oh, people that like hockey fights, right? Kids that like hockey fights. So like, who doesn't like watching a hockey fight? You love a hockey fight till you see someone that you're close to in one. Now you get nervous. You still like them, or everyone's tough until they get like in hockey, like hockey fights. They talk about the fighting and the hitting and stuff until you go up your first year against Arbor Jackeye every time you're on the ice, and you know that he's one of the toughest guys that played in the game at that time, right? That's the test. So it's actually does not become as fun as you think until you go through that and you earn, as John Tortorella said, you earn your way to respect and earn your time.
Yeah, it is interesting seeing like the reactions to the different situations. Like I've had so many conversations with like parents about just like the craziness and like the discussions and like some of the parents be like, oh, I was on the phone with this guy for however long last night talking to him about what he's going to do next year and all this stuff, and it's like it's just hard for me to grasp. Like it's just hard for me to understand. I don't know, like, and I remember like being a kid and like there was only 1 year that I thought it was possible that I was going to get cut, and like I played AAA right away, like U10 right up. I was always like one of the better guys up until like U14 or 15, and then a bunch of new guys came from that were playing AA still at the time, whatever. And like, but I don't ever remember like, should I move or like should I do this thing or do that thing? It's just changed so much. So I have a hard time. And I'm not saying that as like a negative necessarily. I have a hard time understanding like why, or I guess what the parents say that, or what the parents think that just gets them so wrapped up in it, like where it's like, and I get it's their whole world to a degree because like all you do every weekend is take your kids to hockey and all that stuff, but like the kids are not as worried about it as the parents.
A lot of the times,
right? A lot of the times, it's like they're not. It's like,
well, that's what we talk about. As I said to that person today, it's like you know, what should I do? What should I do? How could I do it? How hard should I push that? And it's like you live in the same house. Well, only one of you are going to be motivated. And it should be the kid. I'm going to go back on that. Here's an interesting scenario. I was thinking about this as you went on your rant because it's just a true story. So when my son was drafted to the Guelph Storm, was 31st overall, right? There's Cam Allen was the first round pick, and the first round pick, and he was very good. Like when he walked in the league, he was really good, like high skilled and stuff like that. So a little bit of a leash, got to play. His first year, I would say he didn't hit a lot of adversity, but and things went really well for him. Okay,
for Cam,
yeah. The second round pick was my son, and he had to fight for everything he's got, right? And which I love, and he loves, and today it benefited him in several ways, right? So the next pick was should I say names? Yeah, Chase Coughlin.
Yeah, I can cut him if I need to.
No, Chase Coughlin was a third round pick, and he was there the first year, and then they put him into junior B for a bit of the year, and then the following year they wanted him to marinate in junior B a little bit, and he was like, awesome dude, by the way, but he was like, kind of hurt. It's my second year. I need to like, why not, right? So, and I think he finished his whole first year, and then the second year was like marinate a little bit, and we'll bring it back up. So I think probably the agent or whatever said, like he paid his dues last year, which is fine, and he got traded, and he went to Sudbury Wolves, and then he went there, and he actually did very well for the style of play, as he's always going to be like more of a checker guy. Had 3 really good years, right? Played an overage year, had a really good year, but he had to earn it. Then we had Then there was another player that was
going
taken.
to Bowling Green too, eh?
Yeah, now he's got a scholarship, and he plays, but he did it the hard way, right? He wasn't a skilled guy. He went and hit and fight and rat and that kind of stuff. Then there was the next player was I don't want to say his name because what happened with him first year is he didn't want, and he came down and trade with us for a little bit, but he couldn't handle that he wasn't going to get a sniff, so he was playing more junior B, and then he got a couple games in the OHL that year. And by the next year, when he came back to camp, he just didn't want to pay the price like one iota. So he left in camp, and he was going to be really good. He was actually going to be really good
player.
He was a good player. He was a big kid, and he just could not put through his head that he would have to earn his spot again over the next year, maybe even 2. But and I know for a fact that the coaches and GMs and sat down and said, "Hey, dude, you're gonna play." Like but he could not fathom not being a top 4. Quit hockey at 17 years old, and then after the pick or two after that was Zach Sandu. Zach Sandu, here's a guy so he went into drafted in the 21, right? And he went in and worked real hard. He plays a real sandpaper type of. He's a defenseman, sandpaper game. And right away, team said, doesn't even matter how good you are. You're going to go play junior B because you need to marinate. Smile on his face. Dad took him there, went to every game, and happy. Just go develop. Got brought up for maybe 6-8 games, something like that, maybe 4 or 5. Got brought up. When he came, he was, a young D, but he is what he is, but he understood, okay, marinate. So the following year came back and he was ready to go, and a couple of trades were made. So he started the year. Then they said, we go back to junior B shortly for a little bit. They brought him back up for the year, and then they made some trades at the end of the year and sent him back down. That sucks. And that's a guy that actually earned it, right? And then the following year, it was like he was fighting for ice again. Not that he didn't deserve, just that the D were deep. But he had the right attitude towards it, fitness, eating, working out, still scrapping and hitting and stuff like that. Then he gets traded because the general manager in Guelph wanted to do him a solid, probably to the detriment of the team. Trade him to Oshawa. Now he's in his 3rd OHL conference final, went to the OHL championships twice. And that's just by sticking it out. And there's a guy that's earned it, truly earned it. And that's just the difference. Your time is your time when it is your time. If you do everything right, and you might think you're ready, and you might not be ready, or might not be your time. But the thing is, if you do the right things for a long period of time, things will work out. They have to.
Yeah, I want to maybe one episode. What I want to do is I'm just thinking while you're going through kind of how everyone's story is a little bit different, and it'll be nice. Maybe next episode we'll do this where we'll go through maybe we'll use Charlie's because you'll know all the guys kind of. Either do the first round picks or all of Guelph's picks for 2021 and just see now that it's 2026 what happened, where did they go, what were they. And it's very interesting. It might be pretty eye opening for people to see what actually happened. So as you were talking, I pulled it up, and do you remember who the 5th round pick was 2021 for Guelph? I hope the answer is no. Isn't that something, right?
So, I think I do. Yeah, I do.
You know it?
Yeah, from Waterloo.
So
yeah,
I'm gonna.
Yeah, I know.
So
now,
I'm gonna say it.
I understand what you mean.
So Jack O'Donnell is his name, right? Yeah. He's a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good pick.
Really good
right?
pick.
And he's probably a pretty good player. I don't know him at all.
6'1", 6'2".
So he's at on Elite Prospects for whatever it's worth. He's a 05. He's 6'3", 190 pounds. He played 0 OHL games. He played junior B, played 3 games in the BCHL, and then came back and played junior B. And he's probably a pretty good player. But that's a 5th round pick. So if you think when your kid is going through the draft, if he's a 5th round pick,
it's top 100.
that's a good player.
Top
right?
100.
So it's and then you 5 years later, now that their OHL career is done, it's interesting to go back and see how hard it actually is, right? So I think that might be interesting to do. Just to go through with people, just not as a throwing shade at anybody, but just doing the exercise.
No, it's hard,
right?
Because when that kid grew up, he was in the Waterloo area, and he was a really good player. He was the spring team talk. He was a talk of not the talk of the town, but it was that came up in the names of really good players.
Yeah, and so it'd be cool to go through and just see I guess kind of the track, but anyway, so maybe last little piece to wrap it up. So I want to talk about the U16 age in particular and kind of what to do afterwards. Okay, so this is more applicable to me because I'm doing the U18 recruiting right now. So I'm having a lot of conversations. We're just about closing up our U16 stuff. I'm moving into the U18, and then we have the girls, which they're on their own timelines as well. But for the U18 boys, these are the kids that are going through their draft year now. So the draft is not till June, and I got a lot of kids now. The tryouts in Ontario are finishing as well for U18, and the draft hasn't happened at all yet, right? So whether you sign on a AAA U18 team, most of the parents are well, how do you know? What do you do, right? What do you do? We want to wait and see. We want to wait and see what happens with the draft. We want to wait and see what happens with junior camps. We want to wait and see all these things. And they just don't know what to do. So what are your thoughts on guidance on kind of how to navigate this time, this kind of no man's land time, or what feels like no man's land time for a lot of the families?
Yeah, this is probably the least amount of advice that I could give that might, I don't know, maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't, because I've never had to actually live through it. Like I like to talk about experience that I lived through because there's feelings and there's you know, you had to make decisions and look back and conversations, but on this one it's like a little tougher for me because it's just theory, or we never had to live that, you know. Like for me, I was fortunate to go from, you know, playing midget hockey to the OHL. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what it's like to be rejected at 16 or 15 or ever at that point. So that's, for me personally, that's not. My kid was able to go from minor hockey straight to the OHL. So we never had that lag time or that decision making. So I always try to make decisions with every kid that I talk to and parents as if it was my son, right? So I like to say, I would like to say that we would sit down as a family and ask my son, okay, so where do we want to be truly, and have a long term, long range conversation about where we want to be. And then I would like to say that we would probably make the best decision based long term, but I don't know if I can honestly say that. And I know that's not the best advice, but I think that's what most parents are actually going through because, like we said, we want, like John Tortorella said, we're in a rush and we don't want to necessarily wait our turn, because we do, and understandably so. When you're 16 years old, a couple things come into play. The kid that got drafted early that you think that you're on par with is playing in the OHL, so there's an ego thing. That's a real thing, not only for the players, for the parents. So if we can keep that in check, that's one thing. We feel like, as parents and kids, that there's only so much time. If I don't get my head start now, or if I don't play by I'm 17, like that process, like after that, it's like you seem like there's no chance I can do it. So the 4 or 5 year window seems like it's an instant, but it's really not. There's a lot of time to do a lot of damage for the good for your hockey career every year that you play. And if you think about it, if you went from U16 to U18, U18 to junior B to junior A to OHL or college, that's a really good stepping stone. You probably learned a lot of good lessons along the way. But saying that, having said that, what do you do? I don't know. Because your options are running around trying out for a whole bunch of teams, putting your name into camps, spending money going to camps or stuff like that, or deciding I'm going to play U18. And then the question is, which is a real question that people have, is it actually really scouted? Am I on can I advance my hockey from U18, which you can, right? So that's the biggest question, and I don't know necessarily the answer. But what I would say is, not to, I don't like having backup plans, because like that gives you an escape clause almost. But you maybe should have a backup plan. So I think if I was a player that you might be recruiting for your U18 team, or a parent that we were talking to, I would definitely listen to, because it might be the option. And the thing is you have to always remember, once you get through the U16s and stuff, the funnel starts to get a little thinner. So the options to play hockey aren't really as much your options as they are the coaches and stuff. So you don't really necessarily want to burn bridges. So I don't want to tell you, because I overestimate as a player or a parent how good my kid is to you, and say, well, he's not playing the U18, and then he doesn't make a junior BC team because there's only so many cards anyways. Then you come back with the tail between the legs, but we might want to play here, and it's probably not the best attitude. So I think the best thing to look at is, number one, what level would you like to play at? There's junior, OJHL, junior B, junior C, whatever, going out east, west, whatever. But look at the best one that fits you. And I go back to what we said earlier. What are the things that are important to you? Is it being on a good team? Okay. On a good team, being a young guy might not make it, might not get ice. So think about that. Is it good coaching? Okay. Good coaching can go either way as well. Good coaching can mean you're learning a lot and you're developing under, learning how to play the game and learning how to win and all that kind of stuff, like as an individual. But it also could mean a good coach means that he plays to win and you don't get ice again, right? So you got to look at that. Development. So let's look at, what do people mean by development? Like, how am I going to develop into a player long term? Well, that's going to include your gym work. It's going to include practice, going to include a lot of outside things like that that are going to actually make you like help you become a better player. So if what's important is development, then you want to take, in my opinion, you want to take. So let's say it's junior B as opposed to the OJHL, the OJ or junior A, junior B versus junior A, because the team you could play on a higher tier team or league as opposed to, wow, what a sentence. But you choose to play on a team that maybe a little bit lower level, but the development's a lot better. In long term, you see that that's going to be a better way to develop. So then I would say that if that's what your decisions are, right, then I would stick to this is what's important to me and try to make that and put your heart and soul into that and try not to let the outside noise and people tell you what is best for you and go for that, because you have to do what's right for you and what's best for you. And winning might be the best thing for you. Developing might be the best thing. Getting in a gym might be the best thing. Like there's different things, right? And then have an honest conversation with the U18 coach. Like that's what I would say to you is like, Eric, like this is how I would say it to you. I've had this conversation recently with people about other issues. It's like the last thing we ever thought, or I'm a kid now. The last thing I ever thought is I was going to play U18, and it's the last place I want to play. And Eric, like this is off the record now. You understand that, right? You don't. No one dreamed to play. Grew up dreaming to play U18 hockey.
I don't think that's on the record. I think
no,
I say
no,
that
I meant off the record. I was pretending for a
Oh,
second.
right,
now
right.
I'm real.
Right. Right.
Okay, that's for real. So that's a nice, honest conversation. It's refreshing to actually hear from a kid. Not I'm too good to play U18, but I never thought. I've never thought that. I valued my hockey abilities as something different. I never actually thought that I'd sit down and play, have a conversation and play in U18. But I'm here because that might be a possibility. That's a humble approach, good approach. Now I'll let you know that this is my intention. I want to go to the whatever junior team. I really feel I want to do this because of this, and this, and that's why I'm going. But if I don't make it on that team, I would like that. Then my next step is this is where I would want to play, and but this is what I intend on doing. That's a nice conversation. It's a good one. And then you go, you can set your heart and put your work into one thing, and God bless you and the horse you rode in on. If you make it, that's awesome. And if you don't, you've created a really good relationship with your U18. You didn't come in there like a cocky family saying, I'm too good for this, right? And you don't have to eat humble pie, and you can come back with a good attitude because your next step is still going to be the next step, right? You don't have to play in the OHL when you're 18.
Okay, that's all. That's awesome. I hope that's valuable because you did. That's a good walk.
But I truly say this is the way I would try my best to walk my son through, or a family through a real life scenario. And when I talk to kids about these scenarios, like I had one the other day, asked me about which team should I play for, like in junior B. He's got 2 offers. I said, cool. So we talked about a couple of the offers, and basically I said, I didn't tell him. No, I did. I did say that. I said, I always make decisions with you guys as if you were my son. And I said, for you, because you're a little bit a later developer, but are a great hockey player, I think and this is going to be a jump for you, but I think you're going to do well. I think the most important, not the most important thing, but I think one of the things is if you move to the one place, you're a couple of hours away from home. And what that means for you is you're going to be away from home. And that means you're going to be at a new school, and there's distractions that you don't necessarily need when you have it right in your backyard and it's kind of where you want to go. He goes, okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. I said, okay, perfect. Then you're thinking, just help him make a decision, right? But it was like intelligent ones or at least conversations and giving solid reasons why that would work.
Yeah. So, okay. So like, we'll finish on this like scenario, because I think this is like probably the most common scenario. Okay. So first, let's see if we can agree on the first things. If you're like a high OHL pick, there's a high likelihood that you'll sign and be on the team, more or less. If you're a first round, second round pick, in there. Yeah,
there's definitely
even third-ish
starts to get tough.
But when we get, let's say from like rounds 3 to 6, this isn't perfect. This is just my rounds 3 to 6. You'll probably make a junior team. Those are like the likely picks that will make a junior team. So I've never met any family, even though some people say this, I've never met any family that turns down a junior offer at 16. Personally, I don't know of any.
No, not really.
So like, even though some people will say, well, we were not sure that even if they gave us a card, we would take it. It's like you'll probably take it, right? So if they're playing a junior B, junior A, whatever, that's like your 3 to 6-ish rounds. Once you get past that, now like U18 actually becomes like a serious possibility. Rounds 7 to 15, right? And you could think, I'm a 7th round pick. How could I be playing U18? There's just not that many spots. There's just not that many spots, right? So if you're one of those kids from round 7 to undrafted, that's the vast majority of players that have played U16 AAA in Ontario. In the US, it's kind of similar. In other areas, that's the vast majority.
That's the bulk.
So the majority of those players are going to be thinking, okay, if I can go to a camp and make a junior B team, I'm going to try to do that. But I'm going to have some other type of option. And I think the way that you've laid it out, and this is kind of the way that I do my recruiting for people that care, it's just like, I know that. Running a U18 program, I know that. I'm trying to set up a U18 program so you can make the jump to junior the next year, because that's what everybody says they want to do. So it's like, yeah, go try out for your junior teams. Go do whatever you're going to do. I'm not going to force you to be here. But in my mind, I kind of have a rough idea of like who actually is going to make the junior teams and who won't, right? And as camps go on, as the summer goes on, it starts to become more clear who's hanging around at junior programs and who isn't. And so for most of the kids, like I'll say, yeah, you can, commit to our program. And if you don't make it, well, you have a plan, you have a framework, because most people are just like, oh, it's so hard to decide. It's so hard to know what to do. And like in my mind, I'm just like, not really though. Right? Like, not really. If you're in that demographic where you're maybe like 7th round or later, right? And that's not even
or
perfect.
Sooner.
Yeah, that's not even perfect, but just roughly.
Yeah.
Like, you probably should have something of like, okay, like here's my worst case scenario, and you can start to explore options. You can start to have the conversations, and then a lot of coaches aren't going to be the way that I am, and I know that. Some of them are like, no, like if you're going to be here, you have to be here, and we expect you to play, and I'm not going to give you a spot if you might leave, right? So not everybody will do that. But you want to kind of have an idea of where you'll land, because most teams will wait. If you're a good player that could play junior, whatever, most teams are going to wait to see what happens and like wait for the trickle down a little bit. So that would be kind of right in line with the way that you're suggesting, to weigh the decisions and create the or go through the conversations and discussions with your family, with your kid. What are the things you care about? What are the things you're looking for? And all of that, like you spelled out. But most people are going to be in that bucket. So if you are going to be in that bucket and you're listening and you think you'll be, let's say best case scenario, a mid-round pick in the OHL or anything later than that, then you're probably going to be in that kind of demographic where this, exactly what you just went through, is kind of the process for you, right? And you can start to put something in place where I have so many conversations with so many parents, and it's just like, well, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. We got to wait and see. It's like, not really.
But not really.
Right?
But not really.
Not really. It's like, you can still go try, right? I'm not saying don't go try and count yourself out or anything. That's not what I'm saying. But like, there's not that many decisions to make. You're going to have a couple camps that you want to go to, a couple teams that you'll actually go try to play for. And then outside of that, you'd end up back playing U18. That's basically what the math is. So if you are getting more deep into it than that, where it seems like it's more complex, I just don't think that it is that complex.
Yeah.
And like, I've gone through it. Like, this happened to me.
Well,
like,
but this is like when that's why sometimes you have to take feedback. Like, when we talk about coaches or scouts, when people say, he shouldn't have been drafted that high, shouldn't have been drafted that low, whatever. It's like, based on what expertise do you have, right? What expertise do you have? Well, I just think that's okay. That you can think all you want, but people that are picking teams, scouting teams, and stuff like that, they're wrong several times, but they have a checklist of reasons why they would choose someone, what makes them a good high draft pick or not draftable, and it's based on some scientific. Well, I don't know if it's science, but it's scouting science and running teams forever, and the eye test and analytics and all that stuff to say this is where you would fit in. Whereas mom and dad would say he should be a 2nd round pick, a 1st round pick, a 3rd round pick. He's better than this guy. Okay, fine. And it's the same thing when so listening. Maybe have, not that everybody's opinion counts, but like listening to the right, like you said, entourage before. Getting information from the right people, honest feedback, you might be surprised at where you're at. And it's the same thing when you're picking a team. It's like, it's easy to say, well, he could play junior B easy. You hear that a lot. Well, he'll play junior B or play in the OHL. It's like, okay, but look at the list. Like, just without even without even like comparing how good your kid is or isn't, because look, okay, if you're a right winger and there's, you know, Oshawa Generals, let's just say, I don't even know what the roster looks like next year, but probably even though they finished last this year, hard team to make next year. It's still a deep team because it's the OHL. So you might be a second round pick right winger, third round pick right winger. It's going to be really hard for you to make that team, right? So it goes back to, you know, when you're making decisions for yourself, always remember that when we look at ourselves or our family members or people that are close to us, we're looking at it through, I don't like using the term rose-colored glasses because it sounds like you're just blind, but I guess that's what it is. But you're looking at it through love. You're looking at it through wishful thinking a lot of the times, but it's not necessarily the most honest opinion. Your dad is probably not going to sit there most of the times and say, "Yeah, son, you're not even close to the OHL," or they're probably going to say find the reasons why you could be. So it's that overestimating how good you are and where you, right? Yeah, that's what it is. It's overestimating how good you are and where you should go, and underestimating truly how good the competition is around the world and every team and every league. And like I said, you get to 16 years old, and after that, hockey's either playing beer league or something, or just the funnel gets real thin real fast because the two teams like in the area turn into one all over the place, right? Like it gets harder and harder to make at every level. So you have to make sure that like you underestimate how good you are and how talented you are and how skilled you are, and replace that with overestimating how hard you have to work. So even if you are as good as you think you are and you work harder than you need to, you're better off. And then just overestimate how good people are going to be so that you're not sitting there thinking that you're better than people. You know that you have to work harder and have the right habits every single day to be a hockey player. And that's actually a good recipe for success in hockey.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing too that maybe people just, I'll finish with this, is just when you're past U16, you just have to accept the fact that things are not going to be certain, right? Because you're so used to the certainty of like, we've played with, well, maybe now it'll be different with open borders and all that kind of shit because people jump around all over the place that otherwise maybe weren't before. But like when I was a kid, it was like, I'm playing Windsor AAA. That's all I'm doing. There's no question. Every year I'm going to the Windsor tryout. Like that's what was available to me. So it was, we were always sure. Like U10 to U18, it's like I knew where I was going. I knew where I was going to play. I knew the team that I was going to try to make every year. And then all of a sudden after that, it's like, well, you might get traded. You might get cut. Somebody else might come in. Maybe you make a jump. Maybe you don't. And there's just a lot of uncertainty that's just naturally part of it. And you just have to be kind of okay with that. And every year after that, it goes up. Like if you play in the OHL, all that stuff can happen. If you go on to play pro, all that stuff can happen. Maybe you're in Europe, maybe you're in the East Coast League, maybe you make the NHL, maybe they drop you to the AHL. There's just like a lot of unknowns and uncertainty, and that's just kind of part of the deal. So like if you're looking for certainty, it's fundamentally uncertain. So like you're not going to win that battle. All you can do is kind of try to create a plan best you can, and then and that's all you can really control, So that's all I got to finish. Anything else for you? Good to go? Okay, well hopefully that's helpful. I will see you guys next week.